Episode 96 of the Interpretation Station is called To Order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode, especially for the Interpretation Station's Russian-speaking viewers. This episode will be in the Wham Bam Thank You to the Land format. I'm going to try and keep this episode really short and sweet because, as you all know, so yesterday the announcement went up about the for the UN freelancers exam. You may or may not have seen. It's going to be in. You have to look up the dates, okay? So in the LinkedIn group, I put up a link to it to the job advert where you can click on it, you can apply and everything. But I think you have to apply. You've got maybe till middle of November to apply, and then there'll be pre-testing, and then the final test, I think, in January, something like that. But anyway, I am here to help you through that experience. I hope the Interpretation Station is here, and it's going to be pumping out episodes and short translations on the LinkedIn group as well to try and cover as large spectrum of subjects and vocabulary in as many in those sort of three main languages. So I'll be doing all I can for you guys. I'll be doing some question and answer episodes as well. But anyway, I'll shut up for the moment. Let's get down to business. I've got a text for you today from Belarus, okay? Something a bit different because usually I think I tend to go with the Russians. So we've got Belarus today. This was, again, the text that I put up in the LinkedIn group some months ago. Dated back, it was from the 23rd of March, 2021. UN Human Rights Council, and this was actually at the end, sort of towards the end of the Human Rights Council session, when they start presenting the resolutions, okay, and they start voting on resolutions, and as part of within those resolutions, delegations will often submit proposed amendments. Okay, you can see here, представление поправок, L32 to 37, where those delegations seek to amend certain articles within the resolutions that are sort of on the table. This specific resolution is one that you'll see that the Belarusians were pretty opposed to, and they submitted a whole slew of amendments to try and make the text more to their taste. And what happens? They then basically they vote on the amendments. Do they accept the text? And then after that, they vote on the resolution itself. That is kind of the procedure. So this was Belarus introducing those amendments. And let's see what so some quite interesting procedural language here used by Belarus, and also good general language because they do like to have a bit of a rant sometimes, the Belarusians. They're quite fun in that respect. I guess they're a bit like the Cubans or the Venezuelans sometimes. They're one of the more entertaining delegations. Okay, so the first thing I give you here, представляя поправки. So there's, I've given you three ways of saying that: presenting, submitting, introducing amendments. Any three of those will work. I mean, I think maybe I say most of all presenting, but again, any of them will work. Notice the gerund, представляя. You have to watch that with Russian, don't you? When they start the sentences with the present participle, presenting amendments. By the way, at the end of this text, I'm going to do I'll do a quick site translation as well, just to show you how I would do it in interpreting conditions and booth conditions. Okay, then I give you the actual name here of the resolution. Okay, the human rights situation, положение в области прав человека, в преддверии президентских выборов. So this was prior to the presidential elections, okay? I guess you could say, well, there's two things here. You could say before as well. Prior to is a slightly higher register, but also this is the actual name of the resolution. So just as a matter of course, when you're working, you should always actually have the documents next to you for immediate ease of reference. You don't have to guess at what the words mean. You can just read off human rights situation in Belarus prior to presidential elections of 2020 and after them. Okay. Самого начала, again, I'm giving you quite a high register solution here, from the outset, okay? Or you could say from the very beginning, but I think from the outset is a nice, catchy, quick, high register solution for that expression. Then, Беларусь категорически не приемлет факт рассмотрения ситуации. So two things to note here. So, не приемлет, I think it's just, this is one of those instances where in English, it's just easier to give an affirmative word, like does not accept. I think it's just, instead of saying does not accept, I think it's easier in English just to say rejects, okay? There's going to be another example of that a little bit later on. And often with this use of the word fucked in, beg your pardon, in Russian, often you can just drop it, okay? So here it's categorically rejects consideration of human rights situations under item 4, okay? Much simpler than going to all the trouble of saying not accept the fact of the consideration of the situation. Sounds ugly. Okay, subjektivные оценки. So this idea came to me, one really nice word, I think, that sums up both of those two Russian words, insinuations. So we reject all обвинения, okay, accusations. I mean, if you're going fast, you could probably just stick with accusations and go on. But if you have the time to get a second sort of word in, you know, accusations and insinuations, right? Insinuations are it's quite a strong idea, I think, in English. So I think that well captures the idea of a subъективная оценка. Призываем всех членов Совета, so standard sort of solution for me for призывать is to urge. We urge all the members of the council. And here we go again. Не допустит принятия этой резолюции. Again, so a negative in Russian, but that's a negative that I will usually render as prevent. Okay, so we urge all members of the council to prevent. That's, yeah. Не допустит is one of those that I almost always go for prevent. Put it into like the affirmative. A favorite expression here by the Belarusians and in Russian generally: отказаться в будущем от принятия других страновых резолюций. Okay, so I've given you here to eschew in adoption or abstain from or refrain from. This has come up loads of times in my episodes, I know. So, but again, I'm just here just to remind you of the best, to remind you of, you know, those synonyms. Страновых резолюций, by the way, is a country-specific resolution. That's an important, perhaps, concept to be familiar with. We call them in English country-specific resolutions. Okay, so the next paragraph, суть и цели. Okay, and I've given you here the purpose and intent, and I've put here a little comment, good collocation to know, and it is a good collocation to know. And it does come up in, I don't know if it comes up in the charter, but okay, in the charter you've got the purposes and principles, right? But purposes and principles are very specific to the UN Charter, okay, the purposes and principles. So we're not talking here about the charter in this case. We're talking about the amendments or the resolution, or the amendments rather. And so another collocation, as I say, that you will run into quite a bit at the UN is this use of the purpose and intent. Or I've even heard the object and intent, like the object as in the goal, okay? You can say in English, can't you? What's the object of this exercise? What's the goal of it? So the purpose and intent, or the object and intent. A couple of good, as I say, collocations there for you. К рассматриваемой резолюции. So if I think in English they would say, you know, amendments in the resolution before us, or you could, you know, that рассматриваемое in some ways it just takes the place of the word this. You could just really say the amendments to this resolution. You know, it's the idea of giving it like a definite article. Obviously, in Russian they don't have definite and indefinite articles, and that рассматриваемый sort of takes the place of a definite article. But yeah, so as long as it sounds good, you could just you could say amendments to this resolution or the resolution before us. Next paragraph, and again here, рассматриваемому проекту, same thing as you had here. Again, consultations on this draft resolution. You can basically skip. You can just leave it out. And again, more stuff to leave out here. Аргументации необоснованности и бесполезности. So I think you have if you said demonstratie, to demonstrate, let's say, I don't think you even perhaps if the speaker's going fast, and it's Belarus, so there's a good chance he's going quite fast. You could probably just drop argumentatie. You could just say to demonstrate. Now, what are they trying to demonstrate or to illustrate, whatever. Now, these words can sometimes be a bit annoying because they're the Russians use them as nouns. The sort of unsubstantiatedness, the futility. And I guess you could say to illustrate the baselessness and the futility, both of the text itself. Actually, that works fine, now I think about it. But let's say the word that came to mind was unsubstantiated, okay? We don't really say the unsubstantiatedness, do we? The unsubstantiated nature. The only thing is it's quite long to say. So one way of getting around that I've put in, you see, is that sometimes in English, we will express this as with the word how, just to show you how stupid this all is, or to say how pointless all this is. So you have to think on your feet a little bit, and you say something along the lines of to demonstrate how baseless and how futile the text is as a whole, and etc., etc. Or you could even throw in the just how to illustrate just how baseless and useless the text is as a whole. So you just got to be careful with those sorts of nouns in Russian. The one that always sort of makes me hesitate a bit is неприемлемость, the unacceptability, the inappropriateness. You can get away with it, but it's always good if in English you can just have this backup technique of just sort of saying how inappropriate or how baseless, how futile. So it's up to you. It's up to you, whatever you find most comfortable. Подавляющего большинства. Okay, you could say the vast majority. That would be perfectly acceptable. But I think a really nice one-word solution there is the bulk of the individual paragraphs and provisions. Положение, a very important word to know with anything to do with a resolution at the UN or anywhere else for that matter. Provisions. So, but yeah, the bulk for подавляющее большинство. Мы также преследуем важную цель. So I've given you here pursue. We are pursuing an important goal. I like that for преследуем because the pr at the start, okay, pursue, it sort of triggers something in my mind that just gives me immediately pursue. And then, okay, this word here, удержать совет от принятия абсурдного своем новаторстве текста. Now, I've given you something, I gave you stop, okay, here, for удержать, to stop the council from adopting this absurd text. And I say here, sometimes the simplest solution is best, smiley face. Yeah, that's there you go. So stop works perfectly well. But with the benefit of hindsight, I've got to admit that I think a better word here might be to deter the council from adopting an absurd text. I think that sounds a bit nicer than just stop. And then I've given you another note here with this в своем новаторстве. I've given a star, and I've referred you down here. If you want to reflect в своем новаторстве, you could say something like absurdly concocted text. So there you go. I quite like that. Even 7 months on, I quite like that. Or confected, an absurdly concocted, absurdly confected text. Nice. Okay, vychodit za ramki. My favorite go-to solution for vychodit za ramki is breaches the terms. Okay, or I've given you, I don't know if you can read that there, it says purview, breaches the purview of the legal mandate of, so SPC on, so I've given you both of these, SPC and UVKPC, because it's important to distinguish between the two. So SPC is Human Rights Council, Soviet по правам человека. UVKPC is OHCHR, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. Okay, so it's important to know the difference between the two. Okay, предписывая Верховному комиссару. Okay, so I've given you here for предписывая is mandating. And I think on also having given the matter some more thought, you could maybe say prescribing to the High Commissioner. This is quite, you'll see when I do come to doing this as the in the site translation, this is quite a complicated sentence. But I think for предписывая, I think to prescribe something or to mandate something. And then собирать, okay, then the speaker, then the Belarusian word, собирать с экспертами, to gather with experts, to meet with experts, сводить воедино, so consolidate, put into like, bring together into one whole, which is essentially to consolidate. Свидетельство в отношении предполагаемых нарушений прав человека. So I've given you here testimonies in my original attempt. I think also just reports could be fine. Reports of alleged human rights violations. I think it sounds a bit more to the point. Testimonies, I guess, maybe you want associates with courts and trials and things. So I think, okay, I think reports, testimonies both would work here. Предполагаемых нарушений прав человека, alleged human rights violations, I would say, is the most obvious solution. Purported human rights violations as well could work. And then содействие привлечению виновных к правосудию. So again, this is a bit of a set phrase that you really want to have a solution that trips off the tongue, bringing the perpetrators to justice, or culprits, lower register, perpetrators, higher register. Okay, so with that, let's, this is only one page. There's actually, the statement is 2 pages long. I'll give you in the, so in the description box, I'm going to give you the link to the original statement so you can practice it, and I'll also give the link to both pages of the text. But, so anyway, let me just give you a quick run through of this full page then by our friends, the Belarusians. So how would I do this? Madam President, submitting amendments L32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37 to draft resolution L19 entitled The Human Rights Situation in Belarus prior and post the 2020 presidential elections. We have stated from the outset that Belarus categorically rejects consideration of human rights situations under item 4 of the Human Rights Council agenda. We repudiate all accusations and insinuations by the sponsors of the resolution. So yeah, at the UN they talk about sponsors of the resolution. We don't tend to say the authors of the resolution. It tends to be the sponsor and the co-sponsors of the resolution. That's an important thing to know, actually. I will almost always say the sponsors. And we urge all members of the Council to prevent the adoption of this resolution and to eschew in future adoption of other country-specific resolutions. There should be no illusions regarding the purpose and intent of the amendments to the resolution before us, made by Belarus, and those amendments by Russia and China, which we also support. It's not about trying to seek some kind of balanced text or searching for compromise. We participated in all rounds of informal consultations, so неофициальные, don't say non-official, the informal consultations on this draft resolution, and we are initiating the amendments to the text to the text only to demonstrate and illustrate just how unsubstantiated and futile the text is itself, as well as the bulk of its individual paragraphs and provisions. So basically, actually, in this case, the Belarusians, they're not even seeking through these amendments to change anything. They're sort of trying to filibuster the whole resolution. Okay, we are also pursuing the important goal of deterring the council from adopting this absurdly concocted text, which breaches the terms of the legal mandate of the Council and of OHCHR as defined by the UN General Assembly, which mandates the High Commissioner to gather with some unspecified experts and to consolidate, store, and analyze information and reports with regards alleged human rights violations, with the goal of bringing the perpetrators to justice and ensuring justice. And that talks about the victims, justice for the victims. Okay, so there you have it. That's how I would do that run through of that text. As I say, some quite tricky bits, especially in that last paragraph, the whole business of Pisivaya Комиссарус какими-то неустановленными экспертами собираться сводить воедино. But yeah, typical sort of Russian fare. You might get, I seem to remember I got one of these kinds of text once in a test. I can't remember if it was a freelance test or the competitive test. It was a very sort of procedural statement that I had to interpret. So you never know. It's good to know some of the official terminology for the processes and documents involved. Okay, guys, if you've enjoyed that episode, you know what to do. Smash the like button, share it with your friends, share it with all your friends who are thinking about taking the exam. Don't forget to subscribe, most importantly of all. Subscribe to your interpretation station. Keep following me on the LinkedIn page. As I say, I'm really going to ramp things up in terms of posting stuff there in the during the build-up to the exam. And any questions you may have for me, please do write them in the comments or write them in the LinkedIn group. I will be doing, as I say, agony aunt episodes to answer any of your questions, and any text, any subject matter you'd like me to cover. Tell me that. Just I'm here, guys, to help you. All right. So let me know. All right. Well, I think that's that for today. All that remains to be said, therefore, is that episode 96, not long to go till 100, eh? Episode 96 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Until next time, folks.